Welcome back. So now let's discuss what can we do within our organizations to improve mental health. I'm going to share with you a framework to consider. So it starts with educating, but we know that it can't just stop there. We need to normalize the conversation and understand how to get support for ourselves and for others that we're supporting. And then this piece of just continuous encouragement. So knowing that it's not just a one-time event, talking about mental health needs to be a continuous dialogue. So let's focus in first on educating. So there's, ways to provide opportunities to learn about the facts and figures on mental illness and how common it is, just as we get started with that today. And then understanding the signs and symptoms of the most common mental illnesses. So we all have a common shared understanding. Knowing about your family history with mental health conditions and the genetic factors that come to play is an important piece of this as well. And then knowing how to get help for yourself and for loved ones. So what are some ways that we can do that? Starting by communicating your why, understanding how this is important within your organization, how it fits into your culture and your values. Also considering some opportunities for holding workshops to leverage some of the online resources that do help this better understanding of mental health. And so there's some resources available from Mental Health America, from the National Alliance of Mental Illness. The U.S. Surgeon General has a great framework. And of course, our Start the Conversation toolkit is available to any organization as well. Hosting a panel of mental health professionals can also help increase knowledge and understanding. We have embedded this in part of our Start the Conversation journey, where we have a week that's focused all around mental health conditions. And we've designed a panel to a weekly session to bring in mental health professionals to address some of those questions. And then also thinking about how to integrate this into your existing internal communication channels so that it becomes ongoing sharing of knowledge and resources and learning together. And then in addition to that, creating a focused mental health channel. At TiER1, we created a Yammer community called Start the Conversation, where employees, TiER1ers, have shared everything from resources available to articles in the news to their own personal story and challenges and connecting with others similar experiences. So those are some ways to get started around educating. But we know that that's not enough. So we really have to think about how to normalize. And that starts with senior leaders' transparency, openness, willingness to share a story, to break down the barriers. It's amazing what we have seen when a senior leader is willing to share a story, how that opens up the dialogue. And so it's not a requirement for everyone to share a personal story, but when someone does have the courage or feels the calling to do that, it makes a huge impact in normalizing it. Also, just recognizing that senior leaders create spaces of psychological safety, trust, and transparency within the teams that impacts the culture, and knowing how mental health is a piece of that. Also, acknowledging that work itself is one of the greatest contributors of mental illness. There's a lot of research and resources available around this. We know that work can create stress, and stress is a trigger to mental illness. So understanding the dynamics at play and what we can do. Some ways to get started in this is just creating space to discuss and share stories. So that can be through panels, through sessions, through team meetings, one-on-one check-ins. Integrating the opportunities for discussion in your regular rhythms and routines. Again, not making this a one and done kind of topic. Creating short videos or podcasts where others share success stories and their own experiences. Again, normalizes it. And then through this journey, as you're learning more, you're going through the education process, encouraging just establishing an accountability partner where you are sharing with a family member, friend, colleague, something that you're learning along the way. Conducting a survey and discussing the results is another way to help normalize this. Our Start the Conversation toolkit includes a survey that for each individual organization to understand the impact it has and share those results. So in all of the organizations that have implemented, we have found that over 90% of employees recognize that they've been impacted by mental health conditions, mental illnesses, whether personally or through supporting a family member or friend. And again, that helps normalize it. We're all experiencing this. Then also creating channels to build community and incorporate storytelling. That helps normalize these dialogues as well. So the next part we're going to talk about is support. The key to support, while we all recognize that there are ways that we can talk about our healthcare benefits and our insurance, our EAPs, and other benefits that you may have around mental health, the key is to continuously discuss it and normalize it. And so there's a lot of different pieces to support. And of course, starting with your healthcare benefits and better understanding of those and the challenges that are also currently exist within that. Also considering having a Q&A session with your benefits provider, with mental health professionals, outside support resources. Again, in our journey, we have designed a weekly session that kind of facilitates this dialogue, but however you do it, providing that opportunity to ask questions. And then, thinking about ways to consider flex time for therapy and medical appointments, normalizing that just as we need time for other types of physical medical appointments. Making connections to outside organizations, such as the National Alliance of Mental Illness that may be in your local community, that helps provide support. Looking at different apps that are available, mindfulness, therapy, coaching apps. You may consider a role such as an internal coach. Looking at your wellness days and ample time and providing ample time off. And what are your cultural norms in terms of taking that time off, allowing people to really decompress. And how important that is. Also looking at the leave of absence options if someone is experiencing a more severe mental illness and may need that. And then, connecting with your local mental health providers, understanding how their services, and maybe even exploring some rapid access options. Those are some ways to think about getting started with support. Again, the key is to be able to share this in ongoing discussion and dialogue. And so it's this whole piece of encouraging continuous dialogue. It is an ongoing process discussing mental health and mental health conditions, making it part of your regular rhythms, routines, and channels. You can consider including it if you conduct pulse surveys, questions around wellness and mental health, and in one-on-one reflection tools or some other ways to continuously encourage the dialogue. Can also create forums for sharing success stories. This is a quote from one of the organizations that we've worked with. It's amazing what one person's story, particularly a recognizable leader, can do to encourage and inspire others to take action, break down those barriers, and really reduce the stigma. So now we're going to break into another activity where you can discuss this framework and ways that you may want to take a next step in getting started on having the conversation around mental health. I also want to leave you with a challenge. As you leave this session today, try it yourself, opening up the dialogue. Tell someone that you had conversation today about mental health. See if that leads to a more open dialogue with that person. It's amazing what just starting the conversation with one person can do.